Hello everyone and welcome to this video. I'm in the Atlantic Bank Union Pavilion or something like that in Portsmouth, Virginia at the moment on tour. It's been a wonderful tour so far, and I'm also rapidly approaching 10,000 subscribers, or I've just passed it. So this is kind of like my 10,000 subscriber video. I'm going to give you 10 tips if you're opening or you've just started a recording studio, or if you already own one but the business is maybe not doing as well as you want. These are 10 tips for people that have studios or want to start a studio. Now, I would rather be doing videos in my studio at home, and with the power of video editing, I can do that. I can come across as a less sarcastic Weaver Beats if I want to, but today I can't be bothered to do that, so you're just going to have to put up with me in the dressing room. Anyway, let's get on with the video. Here's tip number 1. Give people a good time. Most people, if they're in a band, they save up their money and they go to the studio for 3 days or a week or however long, and for them, it's their vacation time. It's the time that they want to enjoy themselves. They've saved up for that. They're going to remember that for the rest of their life. It might be the only time they ever do it, right? Most musicians are not geniuses. Most musicians haven't written the best song. They're not the best players. But none of that matters. If you give them the best time that they've ever had and they walk out of there not just having their song recorded, but really having enjoyed the whole process and had a great week with you, then they're going to consider doing it again. And if you make them happy, you'll have a customer for life. So that's tip number 1. Give them a good time, overperform, make them feel special. You'll have a customer for life. Okay, here's tip number 2. Don't be tight. If you've done a mix for someone and they're really, really happy and they say, can you run off a mix without the vocals? Which you should have done anyway, but can you run off a mix without the vocals? Or can you just turn that guitar solo up by 0.5 dB? And it's literally a case of just turning the fader up on the door and exporting it again. It might take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just do it for them. I mean, I understand if it's like 2 or 3 hours work or even an hour's work, fair enough, you might have to charge at that point. But if it's a 5-minute or a 10-minute change, don't charge people for that stuff. And also, don't charge a band at the end of the day another hour's time for wrapping up all the leads and putting away the mics, and they're only to charge the band the next day another hour's time unwrapping all the leads, putting all the mics back up. I mean, if you're going to be using the same mics over and over, keep them set up, just put something over the top of them to stop dust getting in. Things like that. I was actually given the opposite advice earlier in my career, though, and I think that's a very short-term way of making a bit of extra money, but a long-term way of throwing away good customers. Just don't be tight with your customers, and they won't be tight with you, and they'll keep coming back. Right, here's tip number 3. Make decisions and move on. Look confident in your decisions. If you're looking at something you've never mic'd before, or even if you've got a choice of 3 or 4 mics and you think, I don't know which would be best on this, just make a decision, put a mic on it, and look like you know exactly what you're doing, even if you are unsure, because then you'll listen to it through the control room and you'll go, maybe that wasn't the right mic. And then you can go, I'm not sure about that. I'm going to go and change it for something else. But at each point in the decision-making process, when you choose the mic and then when you decide it's not the right mic and then you go and change it for something else, you will look decisive. You will look like you'll know what you're doing. There's nothing worse than being in a session with someone that apparently is the person that's meant to know what they're doing, and then they're sitting there with 3 or 4 mics and they're faffing and I'm not sure which one I should use, what should I do? It just makes you look amateur. Make a decision, and then if you change that decision later, be decisive in changing that decision, but always look decisive and people will believe in you, and getting people to believe in you is 99% of keeping a customer. Okay, here's the next tip. Learn how to work with the instruments that you're recording. And I don't mean play them, I mean tune them and fix them. So if you've got a drum kit or you are regularly recording drummers with a drum kit, make sure you know how to tune that drum kit. Make sure you know how to reskin that drum kit. If you're working with guitarists, make sure you know how to restring guitars. Make sure you know how to set the action, adjust the neck, fix a scratchy pot, fix a jack socket that's broken, do a bit of soldering, a pedal that's broken, you might need to change a jack socket in it or something like that. Learn how to do these things, because if you don't get the sound right at source, then it's going to screw up the whole recording from then on. Okay, here's the next tip. Price correctly and take Deposits. Do not, whatever you're doing, have it as a race to the bottom. I've seen so many studios do this where they just look round at the prices of the studio around the area that are equivalent and just think, oh, we'll go $250 an hour under them. And then that studio then goes $250 an hour under them. And before you know it, everyone's undercutting each other and no one's making any money. And it's just a race to the bottom. Don't do that. Price yourself according to your skill level. Price yourself according to what equipment you've got. Get out there and advertise yourself. Show yourself online. Show what you can do and people will come to you. Trust me, bands are not picking a studio based on the fact that one is $250 an hour less than the other. If you're a really good studio and you've had really good results, people will pay an extra $25, $30 a day to come and record with you over someone else. It's not something that I think really helps when everyone is just trying to undercut each other and it's a race to the bottom. So value your skills, show that you can do work that deserves the money you're asking, and wait for the customers to come to you. And once they're there, impress them and keep them forever. Okay, here's a really important one. Learn some people skills. And by people skills, I don't mean getting on with people and being friendly with people. I mean, learn to understand that different people in a band are going to have different ideas of what they want, you know, something higher, something lower in the mix or anything like that. And you might have to be that person that manipulates the situation a little bit and gets them all to agree, or makes the guitarist think he's getting what he wants and the singer, you know, she's getting what she wants. Back in my day, back in the sort of late 90s, early noughties, when I was working in this stuff full time, we used to read books on neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, which I think is a load of pseudoscientific nonsense, to be honest. But the reason we were doing that is because we realised that even as an engineer, even if you weren't the producer, in a small studio, you basically are the producer and engineer for most sessions. And you really have to take control of the situation. You have to be able to, in a way, play band members off against each other to make sure the product gets done for the budget that the band have allocated. Because if it doesn't get done, they're all going to team together and blame you. So sometimes just having a little bit of manipulation tactics, you know, friendly ones, get the band to work together and produce the result that they actually want is a good thing to make sure that the session goes smoothly. And again, if you manage that and you get them a product that they're happy with, they will be a customer for life. Okay, this next one is probably the most important tip of the lot of them. Don't work so much and record bands or record artists so much that you end up hating music. Now, I've been here, I've taken on way more work than really I should have done, and I should have gotten assistants, I should have had other people take certain work off me and then basically put my rates up so that the people that really wanted to work with me and me only would pay a bit more for it. And I didn't do any of that, and I absolutely burnt myself out and ended up hating the whole profession for many, many years. Because after you've recorded sort of 8 different bands in a week, you know, however many in a month, however many over years, you end up just seeing the same boring formulas over and over again. And then when you listen to some new song on the radio, you sit there and think, oh, I bet you it's going to do this. And then it does, because a lot of things are very formulaic, right? And when you crack that formula, and when you really study those formulas and you hear them around you all the time, and then the next band coming in, it's difficult to get excited by a band's song where you can already predict exactly where it's going to go, and you know from your box of tricks exactly what to do production-wise to impress the customer. And at that point, you really just need to take a break or get an assistant or double your rates and halve the amount of work you do, because you'll end up just hating music and basically just getting out of the industry altogether, which is what I did for quite a few years. I'm back into it now and it's great, but I'm back into it because I'm a lot more selective about what I choose to do, who I choose to work with. And now when I approach a project, I'm doing it from a point of passion because I want to do a really good job, rather than, oh, I've got to record this band again because that's how I'm going to pay the rent, you know. So, and I understand people are at the point where they need to take on all the sessions they can because they need to pay the rent. But at some point, hopefully, you'll get to the point where all of your bills are covered and you're taking on more. And at that point, once you've got a bit of a name for yourself, I'd put your rates up a bit, cut down the number of customers, and that will stop you getting burnt out and stop you hating music. Here's a tip that I learnt from experience. You need to have a gym. I had a gym. Jim was my business partner at Rogue Studios, and he was wonderful. He knew all about the music business. He was a musician, but he didn't have the passion that I had for whatever the latest bit of analog gear was. So when I'd want to spend whatever on a brand new desk or a new compressor or something like that, I had a Jim to sit there and say, is that going to earn you more money? Is that going to increase our profits in the studio, or are you just doing it because you want it? You want this new bit of gear, you want to play with something new. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting a new bit of gear or wanting to play with something new. But every time you think about going and spending stupid amounts of money on whatever the latest fad is, it's always good to have Jim there to say, do you really need to? And question your decisions, because I've seen so many people buy mics that they then don't use for 2 years because they haven't got a customer or an application for it, and they go, oh yeah, but if I get that preamp, then we'll get that work. No, wait for the booking to come in and then buy the preamp you need for it, or hire it in for that one session. If it really works for you, then buy it. A lot of people spend a lot of money on things they really don't need, including myself. I've done it loads. But at the studio, I needed someone solid financially who wasn't as passionate as I was about the music and about the production to sit there and navigate the financial ship. And Jim was brilliant at doing that. So even if they're not your business partner, just a trusted friend, someone that understands music, but also understands that you're probably going to be more passionate about the 2% difference a certain analog bit of gear makes than they will. And they'll talk you, hopefully sort of either talk you out of it or at least make you think before you go out and spend thousands on something that you might not need. So yeah, get yourself a Jim and life will be good. Okay, this one's important. Back in the days when I had Rogue Studios, almost every single customer that came through the door from the morning till night were either drunk or stoned. That was just the way recording was in the late 90s and early noughties. Now, I am not saying for a second that I want people sitting there chain smoking all the way through a recording session in my control room. But this is the music business. These things are happening. People will have a couple of drinks, they'll have a smoke. They are there to have a good time. It is their vacation. So let them relax. Give them a nice area to enjoy themselves. And again, it'll oil the wheels of the session. Everything will work out nicely and you'll have a customer for life because you'll make them feel relaxed and make them feel like they can go there and enjoy themselves, which is at the end of the day what you want them to do. So yeah, just put a nice table outside, look after your stoners and your drunks. And finally, be passionate about it. There's plenty of ways to make money in the world. If you're not really passionate about making music and making your money through making music, then don't bother doing it. It's not for you. Trust me, there's loads of easier and better ways to make money out of there than trying to run a recording studio and record artists for a living, right? It's a thing that should be coming from a place of passion, not from a place of, oh, I think I'm going to make millions of quid. Yeah, there are people out there that make millions out of doing it, but they are the tiniest percentage of the people that work in this industry. Most people are recording bands 5 days a week that will never get anywhere, haven't got great songs and can barely play their instruments. But you're giving them a good time, you get repeat customers, and every now and again you get a band that are actually really good and you can get your teeth into something. I've seen so many engineers that are bored of it and they just put their feet up on the desk and press the buttons, and then you listen to the recording and it's like, this has had no passion put into it at all. They're just doing the bare minimum just to get their daily wage. And I had a few of those come into Rogue and cover sessions for me, and I'd listen to it and think, yeah, I don't want you working here. You're just doing the absolute bare minimum. Band turns up, you hear the drummer play, you think they can't play drums very well, so you just whack 3 mics around the kit and call it a day. Not good enough. Mic the kit properly, treat people with respect, make it your passion, and hopefully you'll be part of the 1% that will make a decent living from it. But if you're just doing it to make money, go and get another job somewhere else. There's absolutely no purpose in trying to become a recording engineer if it isn't something that you want to live and breathe on a daily basis. It's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. It becomes everything to you if you're doing it properly. And if it doesn't become everything to you, then you're not doing it properly, in my opinion. So those were the tips. If you're running a studio or thinking of opening a studio or working in a studio, they are my 10 tips for hopefully getting repeat work from wonderful customers. If you agree with me, leave me a comment. If you disagree with me, leave me a comment. Also like, subscribe and share the video to anyone you think might like it. Thank you very much. See you again. Bye.